So the first question says, what does Islam say about caging animals for entertainment purposes such as zoo?
Zoos. I honestly don't know. I don't. That's a good question. Inshallah, we will search it up, and maybe in the next DIW, we will give you the answer. I don't know the ruling on that. It's a very good question though. Yes, because animals are for service, but does that really count as service? Or is it really taking advantage of them? It's an excellent question. MashaAllah. Somebody really loves animals.
Okay, questions? Mike, is it there already?
There's no mic?
If you just shout it out, if you don't mind. Yeah.
So I have a question in regard to this university actually.
Yes, sir.
So I am in the unofficial Unity Animal Welfare Society.
I'm sorry, you have to stand up because I can barely hear you. You are in there?
I am in the now unofficial UNMC Animal Welfare Society. And there is a case, there is an issue right now that certain students have reported about with regard to the treatment of stray animals on campus.
Yes.
Where people have reported that the security guards basically beat the stray animals up and to chase them off the property.
Correct.
And we have had animals that are injured with broken bones, etc. And we have spoken to the management a couple of times. And the excuse that the management gives, and I do believe that this is actually the excuse that they're using, is that the Muslim students on campus complain that the stray dogs on campus are against their religious beliefs, and therefore that they allow the security guards to treat the animals in such a way to get them off the campus. So if you could just clarify if that is considered Islamic in any way, or if the university management is just using Islam as an excuse to do this.
All right, listen, I'm going to believe you because that is the fundamental principle. But I'm not going to answer so that this answer may not be misused in some way to claim now that we're trying to rebel against the management. But I will give you the Islamic ruling, irrespective of whether what you said is happening like that and that was the excuse or not. That's none of my business. I'm a lecturer. I come here, give lectures, go back. I have nothing to do with this university. But that does not justify it. The fact that Muslims have issues with dogs within a limited, by the way, scope. As in, Islam allows you to have a hunting dog. Islam allows you to have a guard dog, which you leave outside to protect your house from thieves and what have you, and a farm dog, like the one that helps the shepherd and what have you. All of these are allowed in Islam. Mind you, hunting dog is the one which supposedly after you shoot that bird, he gets it for you with his saliva. So that is the context where the dogs are not an issue. However, the Islam has an issue with the dog as a pet per se, because we believe the saliva of the dog is impure. Now surely scientifically they found out that there are all types of bacteria that lives in the saliva of the dog more so than many other animals. This is recent. So it's in line with our teachings. So that means that Muslims should avoid physically going and allowing this dog to lick them so that they have saliva. Period. That is the only objective. If this dog now is an aggressive one, which is chasing students down and licking them in spite of them, or biting them, then of course you have to deal with them accordingly. It doesn't mean you grab him, you beat him, break his leg. But you remove them, you remove that harm. And if the dog is minding his business, then for the most part, you just mind your business. You know what I'm saying? So Islam doesn't tell you actively go find dogs and beat the crap out of them and then say, we have a problem with dogs. It doesn't work this way. All right? But again, I don't know what's going on here and it's none of my business.
Could I just ask a question in relation to what you just said?
You like dogs a lot, don't you?
Yes,
Okay.
If you said, because I spoke to someone, a friend of mine who's in the Islam Society, who said that the idea behind not keeping a dog inside the house is because of the saliva.
Correct.
Does the same logic go for service dogs for people who have disabilities?
Yes, this is something that the scholars will look into for that particular person. Meaning Islam is not, it's not rigid in a sense that we're not realistic. So we have principles. That's why it's very important to understand Islam. Islam laid down foundations or principles that apply until the end of time. Meaning, let's say service dogs didn't exist at the time of the Prophet. Fine. However, we learn from other events principles such as الضرورات تبيح المحظورات. Necessities allow prohibitions. So there are certain cases where something that could be Islamically prohibited, it becomes allowed because of a necessity that could not be fulfilled otherwise. So this principle might allow a service dog to be used because that blind person has no other means to be helped. You see what I'm saying? All these are taken into consideration within the Islamic framework of jurisprudence. Good question. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions on the mic? Go ahead.
Some people, how can you deal with anger with people who always think they're right and they're superior on any other sect of Islam? For example, like you said, the Wahhabis, they always think they're right and they don't believe for other sects of Islam like Shia or Turkey, for example. So how do you deal with people like that? And even if they're right, how do you control your anger or mind your business and not get aggravated by them?
That is hilarious for so many reasons. It's just anger management. Just like you control your anger when you see anything that is you believe to be wrong or not right, that doesn't justify that you become angry or you transgress. You have the right to disagree, just so we can be clear. It's one thing to disagree, to object, to refute, to retaliate in some civilized manner, and it's a whole other thing for you to transgress now because of your anger. So no one is gonna limit you from expressing yourself, but that should not make you become aggressive against others. Now, in the ideological war, then people can say whatever they want to say. And to be clear and straightforward, you do have to realize that the truth cannot be replicated, or it cannot exist in two different things that are at contrast. Meaning, this gentleman in front of me right now is standing, and that is the only truth. And anything else which suggests that he's sitting is falsehood, even if you felt very strongly about it. And I have the right to say, he is standing, and I will fight for that expression of mine because it is evident. The truth is clear. It's clear in everybody's face. And if someone wants to undermine the truth and bring about falsehood and want to give it some weight to the point that the truth is compromised and falsehood is raised, then we say, no, thank you very much. Keep that falsehood away. Because the truth is only in one destination. So we spoke yesterday about the division of certain sects in Islam. It cannot be here and here and here and here and there when they disagree. Just like God cannot be what Christians believe, what Muslims believe, what Hindus believe, and what Buddhists believe, and then all of us will wind up in paradise. We don't even agree on who God is within these religions. Is He one God? Is He Father, Son, Holy Ghost? Is He a bunch of idols and statues? Is He Brahma? Is He? We can't agree. So if you were to use this now, say, well, I get angry when someone says there's only one God, and we should be cool and all good about having multiple gods. Now the truth which God revealed is being compromised.
Yeah, but some people justify that by using violence. So
No. We've made it very clear. You're right, sister. Anybody who knows us and knows our da'wah and knows what we say on these platforms, we are the most anti-violent people on earth. I speak of myself. Go through all of my lectures. I have never promoted any type of military mentality, ideology, or any type of radicalism or any type of violence whatsoever. I don't harm an insect or an animal, let alone a human being. The only time I harm others is on the basketball court and the soccer pitch. 7-0 against Hazik in basketball, 4 goals and 3 assists against the rest of the losers. That's it. Thank you so much. That is the only time I'm violent. Other than that, wallah, we're for peace. But I am for self-expression. I am for being confident about what I believe. I am for allowing you to speak your views, even if they differ with mine. I am for speaking about them publicly, discussing them, making them heard. No problem. But to reach the point where there's a Muslim, a Sunni Muslim and a Shi'i Muslim, so now that Sunni harms the Shi'i in any way, it is not allowed in Islam. I said that even in the lecture yesterday, because we have those who go bomb these people's masjid. The Sunnis bomb the Shia's masjid and the Shia bomb the Sunnis masjid. That's crazy. Killing a human being is crazy. The craziest thing you can do in your life is murder someone. If you read the Quran and the Sunnah, you will freak out when you see the consequences of killing a person. So how would we then justify violence? It is not justifiable. But you see, you have to draw the line. The fact that we are not pro-violence doesn't mean that we are the type who gets stepped on and walked all over and say, it's okay, no problem, everything is beautiful. No. Sorry. And I agree with you. So we're on the same page, inshallah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have a lot.
Sorry, Hazik. I tried my best not to speak about it. It didn't work.
This question says, is it racism if I see a certain repeating trait in a certain race and I dislike it?
Look, I believe in stereotyping. I believe in stereotyping to some degree because it is something that cannot be denied. But there's a fine line between stereotyping and oppression. I'll give you examples. You can all agree that certain people from certain backgrounds share certain traits. True or false? Does anyone deny that? No examples given because that's where people get upset. I'll give you example of my own people. Let them be mad at me. The average Lebanese is a show-off. The average, if you meet 10 of them, 10 and a half are show-offs. The one half which doesn't exist, you haven't met him, who's not a show-off is somewhere else. They must have their BMW and their clothing, and this is just the lifestyle. Any Lebanese people here? Barakallah feek. See, he went like this, showing off already. You should have kept quiet, ya Sheikh. I'm just teasing you, man. So there are certain traits that certain people have. What you don't want to do is make it an individual thing. Meaning you don't automatically say, oh, Saif, because you are from Egypt, you must be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Even though these 5 traits may be common among Egyptians, you cannot label him like that until you see him act in this way. Then now you have a valid story. Because some people may misuse this and automatically say, so all Egyptians are 1, 2, 3, fear Allah. You cannot say that. In Islam, it's not allowed for you to say that. All Sudanese are such and such. All Indians are such and such. All whatever. No, you cannot say that. But it could be a common trait among many of them. So, yeah, we acknowledge the existence of common traits, which people call stereotyping, but don't fall into the trap of generalizing everyone under the same title. On individual basis, you deal with people. Now.
Okay, this question says, the N word was used to insult African slaves back in the day. Though nowadays this word is often used by Africans and it's okay. However, it's offensive if a non-African says it. How is this okay? And isn't it an insult to those slaves who fought for freedom?
Yes. Next.
That's all?
Well, what am I supposed to say?
Okay, this
I'm not. I mean, it's being used. You have to speak to those who are using it and deliver that lecture to them. We're not promoting it.
Sure. So this question says, you said that you don't harm or you shouldn't harm insects. Am I allowed to burn and kill the ants and the insects, any insect basically in my room?
They say violence has signs. Burn and kill. Why? Why? How do you burn them? I did this as a child because I was uneducated and dumb. And I would go on the balcony and get, that alcohol type of spray and do it, yes, as a child. And of course you grow up to find, because I wasn't raised Islamically. If my parents had taught me Islam from a young age, that wouldn't be one of the entertainment methods I would have used. But now at this age, why? What is the benefit of burning? If these ants are harmful, and we said before, insects, the way you deal with them has to do with the harmful nature. If they are not harmful, like if you see, what do you call that? Not the butterfly, the other one, a moth. This is a harmless creature. You open the window, let it fly away. You don't grab your slippers and smack it against the wall and destroy it and have fun doing it, or burn it up or something like that. But if you have an ant, or ants that are eating up your house, or eating up your clothes, or eating up then you have the right to get rid of them. And the most effective way, and burning is not one of them. We're not allowed to burn. The Prophet ﷺ specifically disallowed us from using the fire as means of killing someone. Because only the creator of fire has the right to torture with the fire, Allah. We don't have this right. So no, you may not burn these ants, but if they are harmful, then you get pesticide, you spray them, and they die in khalas. Or you move to another apartment.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions on the floor? Okay, go ahead. Left side first. Okay, we're gonna go left side first. I'm gonna come back to you.
Could you elaborate more on the illness of Ayn and the ways for us to actually avoid it?
I'm sorry, could I elaborate on?
Ayn, the sickness of Ayn, when someone looks at you with adoration. Could you elaborate on that?
Like envy and the evil eye?
Not the evil eye.
The good eye?
No, I've heard that there's another type of way that when another person looks at another person with adoration, not with...
With admiration?
Admiration, yes.
Yes, okay. That's not a problem.
It's not.
What is not okay, there are a bunch of things, but this question should have been asked to Sheikh Muhammad Tim Humble because that's his field. So you asked the wrong guy, but I'll try to be as brief and beneficial as possible. You have evil eye is when you appreciate something in someone and you don't ask Allah to bless that thing. Okay? So we are taught as Muslims, if you see something that is pleasing to your eye, including yourself in the mirror, or your own kids, or your own spouse, or your own car, to say, Allahumma barik, oh Allah bless that thing. Some people think it's merely saying, MashaAllah tabarakallah, or MashaAllah la quwwata illa billah, based on the ayah in Surah Al-Kahf. But the actual hadith specifies asking Allah to bless it. That's the sunnah. Envy is when you see a quality in someone and you are so spiteful that you want Allah to remove that favor from that person and give it to you. And this is why you have like Surah Al-Hasad, Surah Al-Falaq, وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ, from the evil of the envier when he envies. That's different. Because the first one is just admiration, as you said, or appreciation, and failing in mentioning the name of Allah, or Allah to bless that thing. Envy is now heart, it's a lot of heart and hatred involved, where you don't want goodness for others, you want it for you. And that is a disease that you can protect yourself from. By maintaining the remembrance of Allah in the morning and in the evening and after the prayers and what have you. Now, Allahu A'lam.
Okay, we had another question, right?
Wow.
You mentioned in the lecture that in Islam you're supposed to maintain the differences between sexes and gender.
So we're supposed to what?
Like the two sexes have different rules that they need to follow, correct?
In some areas,
Yes.
there are a lot of things that are common, but then we have, defined things for ladies and for males. Now,
And you sort of put sexual orientation also in that spectrum. So my question is, why is in Islam homosexuality considered a sin? And is there anything specific in the Quran that any reasoning given in the Quran as to why it should be classified as a sin?
yes. Yes, it's because it is not normal. It is not normal. Allah created Adam and Eve, and He created mutual attraction between them, and He created them physically to be able to fulfill and materialize this affection, this love, this relationship, which result in the production of a child. Normal. Once you go out of this realm, then you have all types of problems. The only thing that the people have to argue is that that's what I like. And then I took you, or I will take you to my other comment, but so does the child molester. That's what he likes. And just like we have the right to say, my friend, this is not good, this is abnormal, we have the right to say to the others, this is not good, this is abnormal. Specifically, when not that long ago, the whole world agreed it was abnormal. And it was a disease that the people took medication to be treated for. Only in recent times, because of the freedom, that now they're getting a lot of more voices than they have in the past. And still until today, the vast majority of people reject that. The vast majority of religions reject that. So the fact that something is becoming popular because of people's preferences does not make it right in the sight of God.
If reproduction is an issue, then
No, it's not the issue.
No, like a lack of like the fact that they don't reproduce, right?
That's one of the issues. I just gave you one example.
So what are the issues other than?
Do I have to be explicit?
But since I'm coming from a non-Muslim background, if you don't mind.
Like a male and a male? With the place where you go to the bathroom to... Don't you realize that even the holes which God created in us have a function? They're made to be adapt to certain things. And some holes don't adapt. They get destroyed. I mean, sorry, you asked for it. This is minus the diseases, minus a lot of other issues, minus the depression rate among those people, minus. This is just being flat out blatant. And then of two females, that's the males. Two females, I mean, hello? External objects and all types of stuff, and come on, man. That cannot be normal, my friend. You should be clear.
But I'm still on the same issue of reproduction here.
I don't care about reproduction. Let's say they don't reproduce. Anyways, we have too many human beings in the world. We can say that now lack of reproduction is a benefit because they're minimizing the world population. Forget about that. Look about all the other issues. Look into all the other issues.
But does the fact that they don't reproduce, can that also be extended to heterosexuals that don't reproduce?
Forget about reproduction. I agree with you. That one, take it out of the equation. I don't want to use it anymore. Because it's in everybody's interest, let's say hypothetically, that there are less people in the world. So we say one of the values and the benefits of homosexuality is that there are less kids in the world. Hooray! But then they wind up getting children from someone else. They go and implant them in another woman and they still have a child. So it's still bringing, even if they're not the actual reproducers, they're still bringing kids into existence by using other human beings as a refrigerator or an oven to carry their child and deliver it and give it to them so they can both take care of it. It is not a normal situation. We can push as much as we want and we can fight as much as we want to make it normal, and it will receive acceptance from many people. But then you are paving the way now for everybody with any type of distinction in their choices to say, and then we have equal rights as well. Bestiality. Some people say, I like animals, man. I like to sleep with dogs. Who is going to tell him no? Who will tell him no? You take your dog for a walk, he rapes your dog. He tell you, this is my right. God created me like this. Ever since I was 2 years old, I saw the first dog. Wallah, I fell in love. Then what you gonna tell him?
So, am I correct to assume that you consider sexual orientation to be a choice?
Of course it's a choice. I agree that some people are born with hormones towards one sexuality more than the other. You treat that. You treat that like any other disease. Let's say, even with the treatment, that person still has tendencies. We say, no problem. Human beings have all types of tendencies that they are required to control and manage. Just like a male, some male is by default obsessed with women. He gets married. Does it justify now that he sleeps with every other woman he comes across in his life? Because he can't control himself? He loves women so much? We say, no, you have to control yourself. Take some medicine. If that doesn't solve it, because you were born with this rage for women, with these hormones that are just boiling in your body, that doesn't justify action. So someone may be born with that particular sexuality, then you treat it as a disease with medication. If that doesn't work, you can't act upon it. Just like that male cannot act upon his love for women by cheating on his poor wife every other day. Cool? I know it's rough, man, but Allah understand.
Interesting to see your perspective.
Yes, sir. You're welcome.
Okay, we have a couple of questions that then sent around twice or thrice. So someone is really, they're persistent. So I'm going to read those questions to comfort you. This question says, how should a man behave in a way that he is not a fitna? He's not a fitna to the sisters.
Well, I don't know what that's a subliminal message right there. Allahu alam towards who? Whoever asked that question should provide some examples so we can understand, because again there's valid observations, and it could be that some males have to change. We might have to change certain things to be considerate for the sisters, but it's a valid thing. Like the ladies can be a fitna for the males, and the males can be fitna for the ladies. But it's tough. Unless I have examples, I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay.
But I think the message is delivered to everybody, which is a smart thing to do.
Okay, this question says, some people have good intentions, yet they struggle with racism. They try to act nice to people, yet they can't help but feel the superior inside. What is your advice?
Introduce yourself to us, my brother. We will take care of you, inshallah. This is, again, I understand this could be because, look, a lot of these things are shaped by our upbringing. And we have to be fair. Sometimes the environment in which we existed, the previous early stages of life shape how we believe now. So many people are born in a racist environment and they become racist or have racist tendencies because of that. So this is one of the things you have to educate yourself about and limit this type of thinking as you mature and become more understanding of others. You know what I mean? Like some people have experiences in their lives where it became normal for them to be racist or normal for them to belittle others because their parents raised them that way. And so for them it is much more difficult than for someone who had a different background, different culture. Regardless, we all have to work towards it. Education and knowledge is basically the key to solve this problem of yours. Once you have heard the evidences, then feel ashamed because Allah is aware of this feeling of yours. Just like a waswas from the shaitan, it's a whispers from the devil. Don't entertain it. When you feel this way, remind yourself that you and that person came from two holes. So you're not any better.
This question says, some unconscious bias exists in our brains that reflect on our decisions. So why that make us believe that we are not discriminatory? So how to come this over unconscious bias through Islamic teachings?
Wow. But just by watching this lecture once it's uploaded on YouTube. Inshallah.
Okay. This question says, some Arabs
Huh.
have a notion that Arabs are privileged over other nations due to the fact that the Quran was sent in Arabic and the last messenger, peace be upon him, came from the Arabs. What is your opinion on that?
The opinion on that is that Islamic scholars consider anyone who speaks Arabic to be an Arab. So it is not a matter of race or nation, it's a matter of language. So once that person, irrespective, and if you look at the Imams, the major scholars of Islam, the majority of them were non-Arabs who learned Arabic and spoke it fluently and therefore were not inferior in any way to the Arabs. So this is a matter, for example, you can meet a student of knowledge like our brother Muhammad Tim Humble. He's a British brother who speaks Arabic better than all of us. And therefore, he is more privileged in the sense, more than most Arabs, but he's not an Arab. So what we look at is his knowledge of the language, which gives him access to revelation, understanding revelation. That is what makes someone now superior in this sense, because they are able to understand the religion in the language of revelation. That's what we should feel about them. If an Arab that you're speaking about feels differently or doesn't take that into consideration, he only uses the race, then Abu Lahab was an Arab. And the most wicked of hypocrites were Arabs. And the most wicked of disbelievers were Arabs. And so being an Arab is useless if you don't have Islam. If you have Islam and you're an Arab, you simply have an advantage from a linguistic point of view. Otherwise, Arabs have, like I said, in terms of stereotyping, certain traits that are bad by default. Just like other nations have certain traits that are bad by default. So being an Arab doesn't really mean anything. They have good and bad. It's either their application of Islam or their utilization of the language that will help them. So anyone who learns Arabic now is within the same ranks. Now.
Okay, this question says, what should you do when you hear racist comments being made about someone by people around you? Should you intervene even if you don't know that person? If so, how do you do so without being offensive?
That's a skill that you have to develop. Either you already have it or you have to acquire it and work on it. That there's no one answer. I gave you many examples yesterday about how to invite someone to pray in your office who doesn't pray. It really depends on you and the nature of your personality. So I might be the type who will, like I said, I will call that person out. If I heard them say something racist about a person who's absent, even if I don't know him, I will call him out on the spot. Like, that was racist, man. Do you really think you're better than him? And I believe that might be appropriate in some occasions. It might not be appropriate in other occasions. It might be that it's better, depending on your relationship, to take him on the side and say, listen, that was not appropriate, man. And educate him about the rulings of Islam. So you call the shots. You have to choose and decide when and how to communicate this message. But what I mentioned earlier is just don't be passive about it. We cannot be passive and let it slide. No, we have to take action. How you take it, depending on your personality, depending on knowing that person, depending on studying the circumstance. Is it appropriate to say this in front of others? Maybe you're all close friends. Like if you're a bunch of friends and you guys are close, and calling him out is not going to, make him offended. He will accept it and say, thanks man, yeah, you're right. I'm tripping. Then do it. If you think he's going to become upset with you and stop talking to you, then don't do it. I mean, you decide. You decide. But do something about it.
Okay, questions on the mic?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you for the lecture.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, so my question is it okay for a Muslim person to discriminate on marriage basis as a choice and as a preference, while everything else such as friendship or any kind of social interaction is no problem?
I don't think I understood you correctly. So you mean if a man is proposing and the parents are rejecting him because of his background?
If you have a specific preference when it comes to marriage, like you want to marry from a certain race or you don't want to marry from a certain race, but anything else like friendship or whatever is fine by you.
That's fine. No, let's be clear. What we are saying is that you cannot believe you are superior to others because of your skin color, nationality, what have you. This does not mean that you have to like all people the same. Meaning each one of us has his preferences. Some only like light skin. Some only like dark skin. Some Africans would only feel comfortable with an African. And some white would only feel comfortable with white. This is your choice because Allah gave us these traits in us and preferences. As long as you don't think that I only want to marry a black woman because a black woman is better than any white woman, then you're falling into thinking that black are better than white while nobody's better than anybody. You see, but if you prefer, and even not only from a race point of view, but even from a country point of view. So it could be that a Pakistani would only want to marry a Pakistani lady because he feels there's more compatibility. There's, they agree on their culture, the way they eat, the way they behave, the way they dress. It's an issue of comfort. Go ahead by all means. But don't you ever think that Pakistanis are better than Indians now because you're a Pakistani and the others are not. You see how it is? So each one is entitled to have their preferences in every respect. Appearance, culture, what have you. But we cannot use this as means to look down upon others or think that they are inferior to us in any way.
Okay.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Poppy, I think you raised your hand, right? Go ahead.
I just want to ask a question about whether it's allowed in Islam to financially profit off something that you consider to be a sin. So I'll use an example of a country, the Maldives, for example. The Maldives is an officially Islamic country, and so for the Maldivian people, alcohol is prohibited, and there is no strict code of rules for dressing, but it's definitely not allowed for, say, a woman to prance around on a beach in a bikini, for example. But the Maldives has a huge tourism and hospitality industry. It's one of the biggest national income generators, and in those resorts they allow alcohol and they allow tourists to run around in bikinis and whatnot on the beach, and they gain a lot of profit from it. So my question is, if you yourself believe something to be a sin, but you sell it as a good or service and you gain financial profit from it, but you don't indulge in it yourself, is that allowed?
No, sir.
Thank you.
I hope in the future you can exclude all of the examples of campus, countries, and whatever, because these things, there are many very good people out there who like to utilize such questions and answers to produce a new message that the speaker did not intend. You know what I'm saying? So I hope you don't know what I'm saying. I'm telling you, as a speaker, I have a lot of lovely people out there that just love my guts. And anytime I say something, they will do a lot of nice work of cut and paste and whatever to deliver a message to their YouTube audience that I really didn't say in that context. So if like tomorrow you hear Abu Musab said, going to the Maldives is haram, it would be understandable because the questioner asked me about Maldives. I said no, so now I became the one who is speaking about the country. So as a disclaimer for these funny people, try again. I have nothing to do with the country, nor do I know, never been there. But in Islam, as a ruling, if you believe something is prohibited, you cannot start a business where you make money out of it and say that's none of my business.
Okay, we have some questions about race, and I'm going to give priority to the questions relevant, so please bear with me. So the question says, if you insult a particular race, will you be accountable for each person of that race in the hereafter?
Some of the scholars said yes, and it's very scary. Some of them said if you generalize and say that all people of this country or of this skin color or of this background are the same, and you have oppressed them, then each one of them, now you owe each one of them some of the guilt of that expression. It's a very serious subject matter. That's why you never want to say all people are like this. You want to, qualify that statement. These people tend to be this way. Some of them tend to be this way. That's how you phrase it. Such people from this background, some of them tend to be this way. That's cool because it's true. But don't generalize. That's a big deal.
Okay, this long, interesting question says, taking pride in your country is wrong, but the questioner is saying, not me, I can't help but loving the region I belong to and appreciate the region of the earth that I was, between quotes, by the help of God, born into. And I feel betrayed when I'm associated with any other country. My pride,
I'm getting goosebumps. Yeah, go ahead, man. Wow, this is so emotional.
I think it says my point is not from what the status of my country is. It's just because it's my home. Is this wrong?
No, it's not. If there's this is similar to the question of the gentleman and preferences in marriage. Let's say you're the type who likes greenery, nature, trees, rivers, and you're born in a region which has all of these. Then you have the right to say, I love my country because it has things that I naturally like. There's one thing for you to like your country. It's another thing for you to think you are better than someone else because you belong to this country. Because someone else in a desert area loves the desert life. And you are not better than them because you have trees and they don't. You simply like your region for your trees and he likes his region for his desert. And everybody's happy with his own place. So there's no harm in liking your country, appreciating your country, supporting your country. We're not going against our own countries, by no means. But we don't want to use this to belittle others who don't share our nationality. That's all.
Okay. Do you mind some questions that are a bit repetitive?
Of course I mind.
Okay. I'm
Wait.
going to read it and then you can clarify that you have answered this. The question says, if Allah has implanted the disease of increased tendency of sexuality of a person towards people of the same sex, why would Allah hold them accountable for it?
Then this is similar to a million other things in each one of us which Allah created, and now we are going to question God about why He didn't do things when we've already mentioned it is meant to be a test. If we were created equally, without any variation in our tendencies, there will be absolutely no point behind your existence right now. So it would not work out the way it is today unless we had these things that we are supposed to deal with. Everybody has a weakness or a tendency that he must or she must deal with to earn that status with God. Similarly, in your education, when going to school, some people simply hate doing homeworks. Some people hate exams. Some people hate being able to pay attention to the professor for an hour continuously. And some people hate socializing with other students. Some people hate working on projects with other students. And so on and so forth. But you have to work it out to graduate. This is your struggle. Just because you dislike listening to the professor for a whole hour, so you stop going to class or you play on your phone the whole time, then you fail. We say then you failed. You didn't deal with your issue. So the one who likes women has to deal with that quality and restrain it. And the woman who likes men has to deal with it. And the man who likes another man has to deal with it. And the man who likes little kids has to deal with it. And the list goes on. That's the challenge of life. However, we bear in mind that when Allah creates these weaknesses in us, He is taking into consideration this fact, and we will also be treated accordingly on the Day of Judgment. So there's no injustice. It would be unjust to give you a quality and then expect you just to eradicate it on your own. Even those weaknesses, in the context of judgment before Allah, they will also be taken into consideration. Certain weaknesses. So just bear in mind, and while with your eyes closed, Allah is the most just, and everyone will be dealt with justly on the Day of Judgment. Our job is to make an effort, exert ourselves, and try to overcome these weaknesses. And trust that He will judge us in the most useful, considerate, merciful way a creator can deal with his creation.
Okay. Any questions relevant to the topic? Then we're going to start with the other more generic questions of tonight. So this question says, I keep on getting anxious that my friends hate me and are actually befriending me out of pity. We keep on speaking maybe or something about this, and I still think that they do feel that way. Can you please advise me on how to get over it?
I'm not a psychiatrist. I honestly, maybe that you need to a more particular advice. Just assume good about the people. That's how you're supposed to deal with things from an Islamic point of view. Husnul dhan, assume good. If somebody told you they're being friends with you for the reason they give you, just accept it. If they're lying, that's their problem. But if you're going to assume that everybody's lying to you all the time, you're going to suffer in life. So, people don't befriend someone out of pity in general. Because being friends with someone requires a lot of sacrifice, and they might just hang out with you for a few minutes out of pity, but they will not befriend you out of pity. Because you have to click with them. To be friends with that group, you have to click. And so it's very unlikely, I would say, that the people are just out of pity being friends with you. People might be acquaintances to you out of pity. If you have some issues, obviously. If you don't have issues, then why even pity someone else? But friends are friends, man. Assume that your friends are real friends. Don't compromise that.
Okay. More generic questions? Questions on the mic? Okay. Go ahead, please. Mike.
Alaikum salam.
First of all, I'm very honored to attend your speech.
I am very honored to be here with you, Habib.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I would like to share something which I witnessed, and would like to have a final answer if this is allowed in Islam.
Okay, sir.
Alhamdulillah, when I was performing Umrah during Ramadan, I could see hundreds of people pushing each other, fighting,
just to touch and see the Hajr Aswad.
Yes.
Is this allowed?
No, it's not. Let me repeat and explain, and then you continue. The young man is speaking about
phenomena where we have the black stone in the Kaaba, and it is from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to hold it and kiss it as means of glorifying Allah. Not that the stone itself will benefit or harm. But unfortunately, we have Muslims who go about it in the worst way possible by shoving, pushing, sometimes punching, hurting other Muslims to get there. And the way I see it, okay, this is like you see a balloon, like there's a balloon which was at the shore and it went towards the sea, and there are like 5 people swimming, and you step on them and drown them to catch the balloon. And you go back to the shore, yay, I got the balloon. Ya Habibi, you just drowned 5 people. It's okay. I got the balloon. So that's retarded. Okay, that's not acceptable. Oh, the people don't like the word retarded. They say you're not retarded in the sense that someone has a physical disability, so we're making fun of him. Please spare me. We mean it in the slang context that this is unacceptable. Some people that have physical what is the opposite of capabilities? Disabilities are better than all of us combined. But this is the analogy I give. The Muslim, that fellow Muslim, should be honored, should be treated in a kind way, especially traveling from all over the world to get there. For you to push them in order to touch the black stone or kiss the black stone is meaningless, and actually that person is sinful. So that is not allowed. You're welcome.
Okay, we're gonna take one more question on the mic up here. Yeah, go ahead.
You should be given the award of the most questions for the night. Is there such an award?
Can.
Okay. Can. That is a typical safe answer. Can. كان يا مكان في قديم الزمان. Go ahead, sir.
Could you explain, I know that in Islam, are expected to cover their hair with a headscarf. Could you explain what the reasoning behind it is?
You weren't here yesterday, were you? It's okay. Yes, the reason behind it is women in Islam are commanded to protect themselves from us, because we as men like women. And some of us, because of the nature of certain women, reach the point where they transgress against them and take advantage of them, or disappreciate them, call them certain things, look at them as objects for entertainment. You understand? All of these things happen, and we see them all over the place, on campus, off campus, anywhere in the world. So because the woman is a jewel in a sense, she has her dignity, and our evaluation of her should not be dependent on her appearance. She is to protect herself so that she is appreciated for who she is, not how she looks. And the hair, or it's not just the hair is one part of the covering. The woman is actually expected to cover her whole body, from minus the face and the hands. Minus the face and the hands. But if she's wearing like leggings and a hijab, she didn't do much, you know? She covered one thing and screwed up the whole thing, the other thing. And a man is not really going to be like worried much about not seeing her hair, because he saw something else which we are all sure is more interesting to him. So there's a logic behind it. And of course, some of us Muslims lost that logic. So the hijab became a culture. You know, they put it on just because pressure, maybe the father, Allahu A'lam what it is. Allah knows why they do it. But they do everything else which is not okay while they have the hijab on. So we've seen, walking with her boyfriend and kissing in public, but she has the hijab on. So it's like that. But the idea is, protection for male and female so we could live a decent, dignified life where we appreciate one another, and once there's that interest, we get married. And then once she's married, then she takes everything off. And she is expected to do so and beautify herself and be the pleasure of the eye for her husband and the whole 9 yards within that marriage framework. But outside of that, we have nothing but problems.
Is the niqab something that's optional, or is that also expected to?
It is optional. There are two opinions among the scholars, to be straightforward. Some of the scholars, they consider the niqab to be obligatory. And the majority, as far as I know, the majority are of the opinion that it is just an extra act of worship that the women will be rewarded for, because it's another layer of protection. But we cannot look at those who don't cover the face as being sinful unless that person believes, like meaning the lady herself, she believes that wearing the niqab is an obligation and she chooses not to wear it. Then in her case, that's sinful. For the rest of us, it's fine.
Niqab as well not allowed? Is it seen as the same as wearing a hijab but not covering up and like not wearing an abaya, for example?
I missed the question, I'm sorry.
Is wearing makeup also not allowed?
Wear makeup? Yeah, because I mean the whole idea behind the covering is to minimize that attraction. And makeup,
It's not productive.
yes, it's adornment. So any type of adornment is to be minimized or eliminated unless it is within a permissible context, which is marriage, or within the family members, relatives that she cannot marry. That's fine. Among her other fellow friends, females, it's all fine. But among strange men, then no.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the bunch of questions we have here. And this interesting question says, is it allowed, the ruling in waking up a non-mahram for tahajjud, is it permissible?
First of all, what y'all doing together in the same area during the night to wake each other up? That's the first question. I mean, what context is that? And how are you going to wake him up? With like slippers? Just smack him with the shoe from a distance? Yes, you could wake that person up as long as there's no physical touching. Again, this is the weirdest question I've gotten so far. But I don't know what the context is or the scenario, but I'm trying to think of different scenarios. It could be that they're relatives, but they're non-mahrams, and they happen to be traveling to a country, and for whatever reason, he told her before he went to bed, if you're going to pray at night, I mean, this is so romantic. Please wake me up so I can pray also. And she wanted to wake him up, then she wakes him up using means such as putting the alarm right in his ear without, shaking him to wake up. Because obviously that's not going to be a good idea.
Okay.
This is only for the Muslims. For the non-Muslims thinking, so what if she grabbed him? But once you know Islam more, then you will understand why.
Okay, this should we go into a lot of marriage related questions or more generic questions?
Whatever, man,
I'm gonna just go with the normal flow. So the question says, I heard someone saying that either we, between brackets me, should keep long hair until the shoulder or we completely shave it off. Two options only. Can you briefly explain?
This is for a male. He either should have his hair to the shoulder or completely shaved off. Where did you get that from? No such thing. There is no such thing. The fact that the Prophet, peace be upon him, had long hair, which according to the scholars reached his ear, many of the scholars look at this as a natural way and not an act of worship in and of itself. But they're lenient with those who decide to grow their hair in this manner because they want to emulate the Prophet. They say, we hope and pray that Allah will give you the reward for trying to do that because your intention is trying to copy the Prophet, peace be upon him. But this is not an act of worship to grow your head hair in this particular way. So you could shave it off, obviously, or you could keep it long, short. What you don't want to do is get funky with it, to the point where you start copying people that are known for being, for being sinful and display that sinfulness. So if you start getting, too much, like you do these certain hairstyles where you're copying certain people that are not upright, that are not righteous, then you have an issue there. Other than that, everything goes. Whatever you like is fine.
Okay, there's another question about another type of hair, and it says, are males
Hair?
allowed- Hair.
Hair. You know air?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Hair.
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 Okay, are males allowed to trim or shave off chest hair?
Dang. Chest hair? The fundamental principle is yes. In Islam, there are hairs which you are supposed to keep, and there are hairs which you must remove, and there are hairs which are optional. I will break it down. The hair which you must keep is your facial hair for the male. For the female, you can get rid of it if you got some. The hair which you must remove, and pay attention for Allah's sake, brothers and sisters. The hair which you must remove is your armpit hair. Otherwise, you might stink. And some stink and don't know it. And your pubic hair, you must remove. Those are the two hairs. Two locations where hair is. Don't just remove one hair and one hair say, hey, I'm done. Just pick out one armpit hair and say, I did my job. And then there are optional hair, such as your legs, and I guess your chest, and your back. And that becomes optional. But you have to take another Islamic principle into consideration, which is not copying or imitating women. So if you go to like a salon where they wax your legs off like women do, then that's a little bit too much right there. And generally you don't shave off your legs hair unless you're an athlete. Certain athletes do this because it's useful for them, like swimmers and whatever. But if you're a normal person, then you keep it as is. Now you could have a wife who doesn't like your chest hair. And so now there's a purpose behind it. So go ahead and get rid of it. There's no harm. But if she doesn't like your facial hair, then you got a problem. Because you're not going to remove your facial hair for the wifey. She has to get used to your facial hair. Otherwise, she shouldn't marry you from the beginning.
Okay, no more hair. And we're going to go to another type of questions. And this question says, if someone turns me down because I'm doing something for worldly intentions and not for the sake of Allah, then how should I respond to them? And how can I avoid being a show-off?
Someone turns me down? Because that in English has a meaning. When you turn, meaning someone rejected you. That's what, not someone belittled you. When you got turned down, meaning you went and made an offer and they said, get out of my face. That's being turned down. So maybe you wanted to use something else.
How can I avoid being made fun of by others? That's the
for not being sincere?
remark down there, yeah.
Well, be sincere. I mean, there are two expectations. You should do things for the sake of Allah if it's an act of worship. And those of us who are interacting with this person shouldn't become assistants of the shaitan against our fellow brother or sister. We should advise them to do things for the sake of Allah as opposed to belittling them or making fun of them for doing it for a worldly reason. So we should support that person, not make fun of him. And for that person, change your intentions. Being insincere is a disaster.
repetitive questions. I'm going to read one of them. The question says, we are told not to be extremist, but does that mean we should not follow the Prophet and his traditions and everything? If yes, how do we know, and so on?
Following the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam can never be considered a form of extremism. Actually, it is extreme to say that following the Prophet is extreme. So if you wanted to follow every single aspect of his life, then you are normal. And the one who criticizes you is extreme, extremely confused. However, within the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are obligations or obligatory aspects of the Sunnah and voluntary recommended aspects of the Sunnah. And a Muslim is supposed to be intelligent, and they have to be mindful of their environment. Because there are certain voluntary aspects of the Sunnah which, if you were to apply in certain environments, you will let or cause the people to make fun of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because they are unaware. So sometimes you might leave off, abandon deliberately a voluntary, a recommended sunnah in order to be compatible with the people around you. Do you understand? For example, it is a sunnah to keep your garment halfway up or down your legs. For those who don't know, one of the opinions of the sunnah is that whatever garment you wear should be in the middle of your leg, between your knee and your ankle. Agreed? If you are working in certain environments or countries, and you come to work wearing dress pants, like the ones you wear with the suit, and you have them halfway up your legs, Habibi, the damage you are causing is way greater than the sunnah that you are looking for. Because if you are a Muslim with a beard, usually that comes with the beard, then automatically the people are going to think that you're some alien, because in this context, in this day and time, in their culture, this is not normal. You're not wearing cargo pants, cargo shorts, you're out on a picnic, you're wearing dress pants. No dress pants go up to midway your legs. Some style, fashion is above the ankles. You know those that they roll and they wear them with particular type of shoes? If that is prevalent and fashion, alhamdulillah. Nowadays, the jogger pants, which many of us wear, or we have been wearing it because it's in line with the sunnah, they became the trend and the fashion with the beard. So now we're good to go. But when you're wearing a suit, you can have your pants up the leg, because I know you want to follow the sunnah, but the people don't comprehend. And if you want to begin, Ya Maulana, ahda shway, bin break. If you want to begin your da'wah with the people, if the first thing they know about Islam is, our Prophet told us that our pants should be above the ankles, do you really expect that they will listen to anything else you have to say about Allah? Forget it. You have to be realistic. You have to be realistic. So that the sunnah might be that you don't do this because you're trying to create a bridge with other people to bring them to the greater picture of Islam. And that might be a turn off for them. Again, I'm speaking with the area of voluntary. But if it's obligatory, then case closed. If they don't like it, too bad. If they tell you shave off your beard because it doesn't look cool or whatever, this is where you say, I'm sorry, that I cannot do. But fortunately, those natural sunnahs are now popular and agreed upon. No one has an issue with them to some degree. So you can use them, you can apply them, and you don't get that same type of discrimination as someone who might have his pants halfway up his legs.
Okay. Might be a repetitive question, but it says how to deal with racist Muslims, and I mean racist. Emphasis.
Next question, ya Sheikh. I mean, how many times are we going to say, don't be passive, do something about it, advise them, and let them watch this lecture when it's done? Inshallah. I mean, we can't fix it. I cannot tell you, strangle him to death and tell him if he acts racist one more time, you're going to put him. I mean, what am I supposed to tell you? How am I supposed to fix it? He needs to be taught not to be racist. You need to do something about it. Everybody's happy.
Okay, this question says, can you please explain brotherhood / sisterhood in Islam?
Yes. I have a lecture on YouTube titled All in One and One in All. It's all about that. Next.
Okay, great. Question says, can men and women be just friends?
Just friends. What type of friends? Like what define friends?
Maybe the questioner can actually
Ca-
send.
I'm sure the questioner does not want to be exposed right now. That's a very technical question. We would have to define friendship before we can give a comprehensive, decisive answer. Fundamentally speaking, if you say friendship, that comes with a bunch of concepts that if you were to start removing them one after the other, you will no longer end up with a friendship. You will have an acquaintance, or a colleague, or a teammate, or a classmate. You understand? But when you say friendship, that has its weight. Friends for life, friends who got you back, friends who support you, friends who's this and that. That requires the development of a certain type of relationship where a lot of the Islamic values will be compromised. And you have to be careful. So, technically speaking, no. But if you mean that you know other people, from the other gender, there's communication within the respectful, allowed means, then yes, of course, people know people, male know female, they talk. It doesn't mean that there's absolutely no communication. But once you become friends, as in the morning you hang out with each other and you spend the whole day together and then you have lunch together, then you go to the movies together, but we are friends, meaning he's not my boyfriend, she's not my girlfriend, we're not really dating, we really don't like each other, and blah, 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 but everything else is like what boyfriends and girlfriends do, then no, this is friendship. Whether you call it boyfriend or girlfriend or not, it doesn't matter. And for the most part, those type of relationships, very often one of them likes the other and is waiting to see if the other one likes them back, and then they discover, oh, we're in love. Or sometimes they don't even go there. But they both get drunk one night and they do what lovers do. And then the next day we're back to being friends. So that opens the door for all types of calamities which in Islam we have issues with. And therefore we say you can know as many females as the situation necessitates, but maintain your respect and boundaries when dealing with them, and vice versa. Don't go overboard with your relationship where you become like friends in the ultimate sense.
Okay. This question says, are Muslims allowed to visit a church, synagogue, or temple?
To do what? Clean?
Maybe for some occasion. Is it?
Sightseeing? I don't know. Allahu A'lam.
Okay, this question says, if a Muslim doesn't want to do something sinful, and he says to his friends he won't do this stuff, but then his friends make fun of him because of it and laugh at him because he's being strange, what should he do?
He should continue doing what he's doing and ignore them. Not ignore them completely, ignore their behavior, ignore their reaction, and be the better person. And they need to be advised. I mean, if we're going to make fun of someone who's trying to obey Allah, that's pretty pathetic. Honestly, that's pretty bad. And I hope that this question is not coming from I hope this person is not speaking about what he is going through on campus among the Muslims here. I hope so. If some of us are making fun of someone for obeying Allah, that's as miserable as one of us can get. It's one thing for us to have shortcomings and not be able to do it, and it's a whole other thing to make fun of someone who's doing the right thing. So we should know our limits. If we don't have faith that is strong enough to be like him, at least appreciate and mind our business. But to belittle him and make fun of him, that's just terrible. And we should fear the punishment of Allah. That is not a light matter.
Okay. This question says, regarding segregation in marriage, is it also permissible for our parents to refuse our potential wives or husbands because they are not of our color or tribe?
No, it is not allowed. If the parents may have an observation which they share with their children, but if the grounds for rejection is merely skin color, then no, this is not permissible.
Okay. This question says, it's a marriage question as well, and it says, people tend to belittle a person from a certain race if they are attracted to a person from another race. Like the community belittles that person. Hint to them that they have no right because they are inferior. For example, as the questioner says, when a black person is attracted to white people.
Yeah, I mean, that's sad. That is sad. A person has the right to be attracted to whatever Allah made them attracted to within the permissible. Because somebody will turn around and say, well, I'm attracted to a man. So the man will say this. So yeah, if in terms of skin color, in terms of features, in terms of physical appearance, in terms of traits, qualities, you have the right, both male and female, to be attracted to whatever you're attracted to, and nothing should stop you. You're not forced to like people that have the same features as you, or the same skin color as you. So if a black person is attracted to white women, so be it. And if a white woman is attracted to a black man, so be it. It's none of our business. That is not something that the person is blameworthy for, and it's racist to feel otherwise. It's freedom. This is the freedom that Allah gave us. We're all the children of Adam. Go ahead and like what you want.
Okay. This question says, is it permissible to pray behind a Muslim from a different school of thought, aka madhab?
Yes, it is allowed.
Okay. This question says, what can you do if you already have an ongoing loan with potential interest, and how can you advise your family members about taking loans and paying interest?
I have a lecture on YouTube titled, You Cannot Afford It. It's all about debts and the narrations pertaining to it, so please watch it, and it's a very long, comprehensive question, an hour and something minutes.
Okay. This question says, what is the problem with a so-called group nation of Islam?
The group nation of Islam? What is the problem? Everything. What they believe. Look, you can only be a Muslim when you believe in what Islam teaches. If you claim to be a Muslim and you go against the pillars of faith, then you can no longer claim to be a Muslim. We have many areas of flexibility where we can differ within Islam. On areas of jurisprudence, areas of opinions, and what have you, a lot of flexibility. Alhamdulillah, we coexist and we survive. But when you go to the pillars of faith, such as suggesting that there was a prophet after the prophet, or this person is the messenger of God in our day and time, like among certain sects and what have you, this is now going against the fundamentals of Islam. and you can no longer be a Muslim even if you claimed it. Now, that's the problem. And if you research the Nation of Islam, you'll see how many aspects of their faith are based on un-Islamic principles from a faith point of view. Creed, yes.
Questions on the mic? Go ahead.
I have a question with regard to what you mentioned in one of your lectures on the second day. You said that accepting Islam is something that you must do by choice.
Correct.
And I'm not going to give you an example this time, but there are certain countries where if you are born and registered as a Muslim, it's illegal to convert out to Islam. Is that in accordance with Islamic teaching?
There are certain countries where if you're born as a Muslim, you're not allowed to convert. Yes, correct.
So, if
You can still, why? It's one thing to say the ruling is you're not allowed to convert, and the fact that you could
Convert. Just like I say, it's not allowed to shave the beard for the male. Then he shaves his beard. The ruling is you can't, but people do it. Just we say you're not allowed to leave Islam. But people leave Islam day and night, wholesale and big numbers, small numbers, and that's life goes on. If there's an Islamic government that wants to take action regarding their choice, then that's up to them. We humans, co-humans, don't interfere.
But it's entirely up to the government. It's nothing in the Quran that says you must enforce it, right?
No, it is. The government is going to be doing it based on Islamic teachings. Yeah. So leaving Islam is not acceptable.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, more questions on the mic? Wow. Okay, we're gonna go. I think
We should go with the
gentleman who's
the more senior in age. Too late, inshallah. Next one.
Let's say there are two people attracted to each other, a man and a woman, and the man is a Buddhist, whilst the woman is a Muslim, and they have a child, and the government obviously they need an IC, they need a birth certificate, and what religion do you think the child should register? Should the child be a Muslim, a Buddhist, or?
A Muslim woman married a Buddhist man. In Islam, that marriage is not valid.
Why is that so?
It's not valid. A Muslim woman may not marry except a Muslim man. Period. If she marries someone else, that's a civil marriage, she could do that. That's her choice. But in Islam, that is not considered to be marriage. Therefore, that child is not considered to be a lawful child. It's a child that is born out of wedlock. No.
Okay. More questions? I think a lot of people raised their hand, right?
We have the gentleman here. Ma'alish, allow those who are older. Not trying to burn you out here, brother, but out of respect for those who are older.
What is the minimum acceptable length of our beard according to Sharia?
I have a lecture on you.
Lecture on YouTube titled "Let It Grow with the Natural Flow." It's all about the beard and the mustache. So you can watch it and know exactly what's okay and what's not okay.
Okay, I think Mr. Azam and Mr. Jalal. Oh, there. No. So you just disqualified two beard questions here. So
Alhamdulillah.
going home.
The beard is cool, man. The beard is cool. Yes.
My question is regarding people who are born Muslims. What if the child wasn't properly educated on Islam, wasn't taught Islam correctly, and doesn't have the fundamental belief and the core, the hard rock faith that most Muslims should have.
Okay.
In that case, if he's having doubts about Islam and he's thinking of converting, quote unquote, like what's the ruling on that? Is it what approach do you take? Do you just consider him as an apostate, or
No.
I've already met a few people that are in that very condition, and these are the people you have to be most compassionate to, most considerate towards, because it's a trend. Atheism is a trend. Denial of God is a trend, and many people are very easily influenced. if they don't have that foundation to which they adhere and belong, they will just sway in whichever direction people sway them. And so we have to stand by them and help them out during these difficult times, as opposed to run and judge them as apostates and say, you're going to hell forever, which is what some do, thinking that they are showing their love for the religion. So on the contrary, I would say we should help them out. Yeah, young man, excuse me, blocking the way, thank you. You should help them out and talk to them and explain to them the fact that they were raised in a way where Islam wasn't highlighted and taught properly is a valid reason sometimes for their doubt. But frankly, there's an element of natural disposition. See, when you reach the point where you doubt the existence of God or the validity of Islam, this now really doesn't have to do much with how much Islam you know, because you can meet a lot of Muslims that are ignorant about the most basic teachings of Islam. However, they have strong adherence. They don't even sway or doubt whether Islam is the religion or not. They might not know how to make wudu properly. They might not know how to pray properly. They might not know how to fast properly. They don't even know the details of the articles of faith. But the natural disposition of the belief in Allah and Islam is there. So knowledge here is a tool, but it's not the fundamental principle. So then that person, when they reach that point, the issue now is more than that. They are now compromising the very instinct which they were created with. And that happens because of social pressure, for the most part, because of other factors. So that's why we need to help them out and get them out from the darkness to the light by the will of Allah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I have 3 questions.
3?
If you don't mind.
Please, the most important first.
Okay.
And the easiest.
Okay. Alright. Just wondering about cursing. So what does Islam view about cursing? And some people, they say it's just a word, and some say it's, some it's a bad word, some it's just nothing, but we see it as something that's bad, cursing, So how does Islam see about it, and what are the consequences of that? Maybe not here, maybe in the hereafter.
Right.
Islam it promotes the usage of respectful language and criticizes vulgar speech, profanity, and curse words. And so we should, of course, this is a very delicate area because some words are used so frequently, so commonly, by so many, that you kind of find yourself that sometimes you're using them unwillingly. You know what I mean? So it's difficult to control and gauge, but the bottom line is we should avoid bad words, and we should only speak, because the Prophet was described as someone who never used bad language. And bad language is cultural. It changes from a culture to another. And I'm giving you my own personal examples. Like, for example, the word retarded I used earlier. Some may say this is profanity, this is a bad language. And I agree. In some cultures, in some backgrounds, yes it is. In my background, we use it often. The same thing about screw up. We got screwed in this. The people might think it literally, but for the most part, people don't think about that. So, there's some area of flexibility that you have to consider. Not everybody means it, and some words in some cultures are very bad, and they're very acceptable in others. All that has to be taken into consideration before we say this person is being extremely vulgar. But generally speaking, use good words, avoid bad words, and buy you peace of mind.
Okay, so Azam, we can have one more question and then
Question from the audience afterwards. That's it. The 3 questions vanished. Amazing. So, Mr. Dean, please.
Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Musab.
Wa alaikum salam. I'm trying to find you.
On your right.
MashaAllah.
What's up? Okay. No, the question is serious.
I'm sure it is. The introduction says it all.
No, let's keep it serious. Some people sometimes may make fun of religion, knowingly or unknowingly. So, what can you tell, like how serious it is from the Quran, and what do you advise on it? Oh, and the example of it is, for example, a person may do something which looks to them a bit strange, but it's maybe not normal, but it's part of the religion. So in this case, they may make fun of him knowingly or unknowingly.
Is making the principle is mocking the religion is an act of disbelief. Mocking the religion or aspects of the religion is an act of blasphemy. And it's a very serious subject matter, because as we said, the fact that we're unable to fulfill certain aspects of the religion because of our weaknesses and shortcomings does not allow us to mock those teachings and make fun of the one who is doing them. However, that said, this does not now open the door for you or me or anybody to run around and say, you have committed an act of disbelief, and you, because you all made fun of that person when he did such and such thing. Because a lot of things have to be taken into consideration. Those people's knowledge, whether this is actually part of the deen or not. Sometimes people are sincerely unaware. Sometimes they make it mistakenly. So it doesn't close the door that they left Islam. There's a door for repentance. And so on and so forth. They could be in a state of anger. Many different things have to be taken into consideration. And usually a scholar, qualified scholar, is the one who passes that judgment. That person knowingly made fun of Islam, and they make that declaration and what have you. It's not for us to, because if you open that door, you might find yourself, declaring half of the people to be non-Muslims, and that's not our business.
Okay, one more question on the mic.
We have a sister.
Yes, go ahead,
No.
please.
My question is a follow-up to the question about Muslims being born registered as Muslims. Some governments execute them when they commit apostasy. So how can that be if they didn't choose Islam in the first place?
Repeat, please.
Governments execute people who were born registered as Muslims. So how can that be if they didn't choose Islam in the first place?
They execute people that were born as Muslims?
They commit apostasy.
Where?
As in, they want to convert out of Islam because initially they were born registered as Muslims.
So someone who is not a Muslim got registered on paperwork as a Muslim.
Yes, because he was born into a Muslim family.
I've never heard of any government that does that. I don't know what you're talking about. Someone was registered as a Muslim when they were not, and then they executed that person. Really? Where? That would be all over the news, by the way.
Iran.
I don't speak about governments, but that's wild. If someone had a different faith and because of some paperwork, because see, Islam is not a certificate, birth certificate. We don't care what the birth certificate says. So if that person wasn't a Muslim, then their life is taken because what the birth certificate says. That's just wild. I don't know what to say about that.
Okay. Wow. Questions? Okay. Questions from
Are officially done.
انت مش نرجع من بريك. سيبوا وانا صاحب مشاكل. والله انا شايف بين عيونك المشاكل جايه. خذ الميكروفون.
Time. Sorry, the break. We can do it.
You have a very good relationship. You're visiting in his house, man. Sorry. Okay. The last question due to time constraints. The last question due to time constraints is a question on the paper. I'm very sorry, guys. I'm very sorry. Please forgive me. The last question says, I'm sorry, you can ask on WhatsApp privately. We seriously have to finish, hopefully, and I'm pretty sure most of you are tired, so I really apologize for the people who didn't get their answers.
You wasted 5 minutes to say the story. Yalla, ya Sheikh, we have time just read the freaking question, man.
The question says, are Muslims allowed to treat non-Muslims kindly, and can Muslims love or like good for the non-Muslims?
It's according to the ayah in the Quran. Let me think I shut this down, but I actually have the ayah, because many people are not aware of this, and this is in Surah Al-Mumtahina, ayat 8 and 9. Allah says, Allah does not forbid you from those who do not fight you because of religion and do not expel you from your homes. That would be the exception. Those who are fighting you, we don't have turn the other cheek. Just so we can be clear cut, straightforward. We don't have this turn the other cheek mentality where you come and run me over, then I tell you, okay, wait, let me get my wife so you can run us both over. And I'll get my neighbors so you can just kill the whole family, the whole neighborhood, no problem, tafaddal. We don't have this mentality. So, we are allowed to defend ourselves. But, again, Allah does not forbid you from those who do not fight you because of religion and do not expel you from your homes, from being righteous toward them and acting justly toward them. Verily Allah loves those who act justly. So that answers your question. Of course, treat them nice, be kind to them, be courteous to them, and this is the way of life. That was how the Prophet, peace be upon him, exemplified his understanding of the revelation in his treatment with people. Even when the most rough of Bedouins from among the Quraysh would come and mistreat him, he would only respond with kindness. That is the fundamental principle. So yes, we coexist and we utilize this as means of spreading the message of Islam successfully. Because if you're going to create these barriers between you and them by being mean, by being unjust, by being aggressive, then you're not going to be able to coexist. You will not enjoy your life and you will make their life terrible. And it's a loss as opposed to win-win in this world and in the life to come. So the ayah answers that question, inshallah.
Okay. My dear brothers, sisters, friends, and everyone, our respected guests, I thank you very much for attending the last day of the Discover Islam Week, and for the whole Discover Islam Week. It was the pleasure of the Islamic Society to have you all here, and we really appreciate you coming here and giving time and sacrificing some of your studying time and coursework time. Much thanks and appreciations from the Islamic Society, and maybe Abu Musab can just conclude and say goodbye.
We go through this every year now, sometimes twice a year. So yeah, in conclusion, whatever Sheikh Tim Humble said yesterday, those are the same sentiments that I have. So I'm not going to repeat it since we're already behind. But ultimately, we thank Allah Azza wa Jal, thank everybody, thank you guys, and always that disclaimer that has to be said at the end. In the context of speaking about religion, one tends to offend others unintentionally, one tends to be aggressive or hurt someone's feelings. It's inevitable because religion and emotions are somewhat attached. So if or in case someone was offended because of the nature of the response, then I apologize. Alright, I apologize not on behalf of Islam, on my behalf, because it could be the way I delivered it was un-Islamic, and I'm a human being. But if the answer is supported by Islamic evidence, then there's nothing to be apologetic about, because we believe this is the truth and people are entitled to know the facts. We don't want to beat around the bush and not give the actual answers. So if anyone is offended, forgive us, and we hope inshallah that you benefited from these events. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.